Your teenager has identified themselves as non-binary. How do you support that? Well, let's talk about it today on Tips on Teens. My name is Kent Toussaint. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I help kids, teens, and families live happier lives. I lead two organizations, the group private practice Teen Therapy Center and the nonprofit 501c3 organization Child and Teen Counseling, both here in Woodland Hills, California. Every Wednesday at noon, I come to you on Facebook Live to answer your parenting questions. Let's jump into today's. My 14-year-old child identifies as non-binary. They were born our son, but now prefers to be referred as they, them. And we get chastised if we use he, his, or him. Anytime we miss a pronoun, they get really upset, but we're working on that. The question I have is, they're wanting to dress a little more feminine, in feminine clothes, nail polish, makeup, and earrings and such, which I think I'm okay with. And with the holidays coming, I want to empower my kid to be who they are and how they see themselves. But when we have holiday get-togethers on FaceTime, I really wish they wouldn't wear feminine clothes because I don't want to deal with the comments and the judgmental questions from friends and family members. How do I address this with my child so we can all avoid holiday awkwardness? Thank you for your question. First, for those of you who are unsure what non-binary is, I just want to give you a brief description of what that is. An individual who identifies as non-binary has a physical gender, but they don't necessarily identify with that physical gender. And it's not necessarily, like for this individual who was born male, this person may not necessarily identify as male or female, could be somewhere in between. Could be some days more male, could be some days more female, some days somewhere in the middle. And oftentimes, for a teenager, they're on this quest to kind of figure out who is that identity, how do they feel, who are they, which is a really important milestone in the development of a teenager. And with the whole pronouns thing, yeah, it's tough to wrap your head around. It's tough to shift 14 years of saying he, him, and his, going to they, them, and their, but it can be done, and just be mindful of it. When you mess up, generally speaking, kids, like adults, are pretty understanding. If you have a slip of the tongue and you just apologize and say, I'm sorry, I meant to say they. Most kids are say, fine. It's when you dismiss it, when you go, oh, it's no big deal. It's like, oh, I've been calling you he for 14 years. Usually if you just recognize it with respect and compassion, kids generally will be okay with it. That's at least my experience with all the kids I've worked with who identify as non-binary or trans. Also, I want to acknowledge that having a non-binary child or a child who identifies as trans is a significant challenge for a parent because it's not something you were necessarily prepared for. For most of us who are of cisgender, which means that we identify with the gender that we were born with, trying to really understand how it would be to not identify that way, it's hard to wrap your head around that. And it's okay to not fully understand that. In fact, you probably never will fully understand it. However, the important thing is, can we accept that that is our child's experience? And if we can do that, then we're on the road to really supporting our kid and helping our kid develop into a healthy, happy adult. In response to this specific question, what I'd recommend is support and allow your teenager to dress any way they want, whether that's nail polish, wearing, feminine clothing, earrings, whatever that is. Because if you try to stifle that, you're stifling their bravery. It takes a lot of courage for a teenager, again, a teenager, to try to stand out and be different in this way, open to ridicule, open to judgment. That's a lot of courage. And I would hope that your teenager's courage can inspire your courage into supporting them and to withstanding the looks and the odd questions and the comments. And if you feel that someone is disrespecting you or your child, then it's up to you to defend that, because you would defend your child to a stranger or anyone else. And you may find that there are some family members who will not accept this, and it's important to talk to your teenager and be ready for this. If you know that grandma and Uncle Ned are just not on board and they're going to ridicule you, they're going to scoff at you, they're going to make some kind of snarky comments, I think it's important to prepare both of you. How are you going to handle that? Do you ignore it? Do you stand up to them? Do you, kick them out of the Zoom? Whatever it is. But make sure you have a plan of how you want to do it, because you know what's going to happen. You may be surprised that some family members with some education from you become much more supportive. And that's what we want. And if you're afraid of this is just a phase. I don't know if it's a phase or not. Usually kids in this situation have felt this way for years. But if it is a phase, allowing them to experience dressing female will help them understand it is a phase. Or it's not a phase. Oftentimes it's not. Or maybe, again, they're non-binary and they may bounce back and forth between male and female through their entire lives. It is something that happens, and you trying to stifle it is not going to stop it. In fact, it just makes it worse, and it creates identity confusion. So the more you can embrace your child to really accept who they are, they can get a better understanding of who they are and how they want to live in the world. Thank you for your question. We love answering questions. Again, my name is Kent Toussaint from Teen Therapy Center and Child and Teen Counseling. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on Tips on Teens, please email us at tipsonteens@teentherapycenter.com or direct message us right here on Facebook. We love your questions. Keep them coming, and we will see you next Wednesday at noon on Facebook Live. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.